Hello.
Hello, hello. Last ball has dropped. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Good morning. I have my coffee. What time is it for you, Damien?
12 past 2 p.m.
Oh, you're fine. I just woke up. It's like 8:12 here. I mean, I didn't just wake up. I was watching the Zverev match, but it is early here. But welcome, Damien. The last ball has dropped. And how about we start there with the Zverev Mickelson match? Did you see any of it?
A bit. Yeah, that's what we usually do. Start with the with what's freshest in our memories. Although it wasn't particularly memorable. I mean, good for
No.
Alex that he was able to mount up this second set comeback. Certainly, he got used to the pace a little bit and like just started taking over himself a few opportunities down the line, which he's kind of known for, especially on the backhand side. But yeah, not the most memorable for sure. First time Zverev doesn't drop a set in this match. Kind of in this tournament, kind of feels like the first time Zverev doesn't drop a set in a slam early round ever,
Yeah.
because he's been doing that all the time. Of course, this one was like only close in the second, but it's good for him, of course, to have just more time to rest up now, since there are some larger challenges looming, I guess, for Zverev still in this event. Now that he's going to play Nori in the fourth round as well, which is like such a physical battle coming up.
Yeah. He's had a tough run of it for his first two matches, and this one felt like the most sort of regular for him. And it's good. And I mean, you mentioned Nori, so we can go there. I did
Yeah.
not expect Nori to come out of that matchup with Ruud. What happened? I mean, he hasn't won against a top 20 player in a very long time. And his 2023, other than that title he won on clay early in the
Mm-hmm.
season, wasn't great.
So what was that last top 20 win? I actually don't even know. Is it
I
like
don't know.
Alcaraz or is it
I
that
think
long?
it was actually. I think it was Alcaraz in that
I'm gonna
final.
check it while I'll be talking. But yeah, I mean he beat Alex de Minaur in the first match of the season, right? In yeah, at the United Cup.
Yes, at United Cup. So yes, I
So
mean,
I guess that also counts. But otherwise,
yeah,
maybe we have to go back to the Alcaraz match, I suppose. No, also Rublev in Indian Wells. So yeah, up until March. But yeah, I think Nori. There was a lot of question marks going into this match for sure. He had some like minor wrist issues, I think, or something like that along the way. Of course, 5 sets against Zapieri, 4 sets against whoever it was in the opening round. I don't even remember. But yeah, I think he played a very smart match, just more aggressive than usual, going to the net a ton, really putting in the pressure on Ruud and like not allowing Kasper to just keep pushing him behind the baseline and just keep dominating with that heavy topspin forehand. So I do think that he actually played just a very good, smart, tactical match, not really outlasting Nori like he did to Zapieri, but this time taking things into his own hands a lot more. And yeah, that's probably one of his best wins in a while. I mean, that we just mentioned that Alex de Minaur one at the United Cup, which kind of looks way better in hindsight, given that Alex hasn't lost since. But I
yeah,
do think that this one might be just stronger, since it wasn't the first match of the season. It also wasn't like a team-based competition, but a slam. It was a best-of-5 set match, of course. So I do think that this definitely is one of his best wins in a while.
and I was just gonna look at their head to head. I don't think it's great. I think actually Rude leads it. No.
I don't even remember now. Ruud Nori, right?
Yeah, Rude
Yeah, I
Nori. I
think Ruud
think.
Ruud led it by like 2-0 or 3-0, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's interesting because for these particular two players, it's nice to see them have a good start to this season. I know Nori did have a good start to 2023, but it kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah.
And Rude's last season, his start because of all the exhibitions he was doing, it wasn't a great start for him either. So it's nice to see them both, making it this far. Rude has won some other matches earlier this year. But yeah, I mean, Cam Nori, if you I could have paid you money that he wouldn't have won that match, and it was really great to see him come through that.
I wouldn't go that far, but certainly I did consider Ruud the favorite. He did seem to have the stronger start to the season, which as a whole sort of just puts you in this position where like now Yeah, did Casper really have that strongest start? I mean, he did start pretty well, but he doesn't really have that
Yeah,
much to show for it. Let's just say that.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, do we stick with the? Let's stick with the ATP. Let's do that, and then we can end
Uh-huh.
on what's happening over in the WTA. But it seems I did not watch this one, but it seems like Daniil pretty much had a routine match against the FAA. With all the drama of his late nights and all of that earlier on. It seems like his match with FAA was kind of routine.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite easy. I think when we were doing a bit of streaming for the Paul Kecmanovic fifth setter, and then just some random stuff that was happening along that time as well. And then Matthew was coming over for Ostapenko Azarenka. We were talking about it with Vansh a little bit, and he was like, "So Vansh should look at the 2022. So Felix should look at the 2022 quarterfinal that they played." And I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, but it's not the same, Felix, you
It's
know?
not the
I don't care.
same.
I mean, I don't think that 2022 match is relevant whatsoever. It's probably a weaker version of Medvedev even compared to that event, but the difference isn't as huge, at least in that case. And yeah, it was never really a match. I think the conditions as well, still at night, but not as slow as when Medvedev was, of course, playing Ruusuvuori way past midnight to like 3:40 a.m. or something like that. Like it's just such a big deal as well. Anytime Medvedev is going to be scheduled for something like that, I think he's going to struggle against like a powerful opponent. This time he's so much more comfortable, and of course he kind of needed that as well. Yeah, after the late finish and the day off, of course, helps with that. If he was to play on the next day, he maybe would have been ruined enough to lose this. But yeah, the draw is kind of opening up for him too. So definitely better. The outlook for the rest of the event for Daniil is much better right now than it was after the Ruusuvuori round 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, Poor Dimitrov, man.
I mean, poor Dimitrov. You gotta win your matches, you know.
I know you got to win your matches, but he was looking so good. He won a title after so long. Coming into the Australian Open, he's been playing so well, and I mean, it just took an inspired Nuno Borges to just like like just wrestle it away from him. That was pretty. You're sad for Dimitrov, but you're right. You have to win your matches.
Yeah, Grigor has missed a few chances at the Australian Open, probably the most glaring one, of course, Edmund in 2018, the quarter. But here, of course, it was still a long way back. But after the first couple of rounds, you could easily believe that Dimitrov was going to struggle against, that the Dimitrov was going to trouble Medvedev. I don't think he was that bad, definitely. I think
Yeah.
Nuno played like
Mm-hmm.
close to the best match of his life, maybe the best match of his life. Certainly the way he was hitting and just sort of maintaining that insane tempo, maintaining that insane pace, and constantly going through the Dimitrov forehand as well. He doesn't struggle with low balls really, although I guess sometimes indoors on the faster court he can. But here he didn't struggle with the slice of Dimitrov at all. Like he would just power through it. Dimitrov couldn't like slow things down, and this is a big part of his game recently, of course, to just use that athleticism to use the slice to reset, to get it back to neutral. He couldn't do it against Borges at all. Of course, there's one major screw up here for Dimitrov, and that's the fourth set tiebreak. Nuno goes up 4-1, plays some insane points, but then he gets tight. He gets visibly tight. He shanks the forehand. He hits a double fault as well, I think at like 5-0 or like 4-0, something like that. And of course, Dimitrov has one set point on his own serve. What does he do? He double faults as well. So yeah, I can't really say poor Dimitrov because he sort of did this to himself. Like this should have been a fifth set. There was a definite moment when Nuno got tight, even with the crazy level that he was showing all match. There was a moment when Dimitrov easily could have stepped up and not even stepped up, like done something insane, right? Just literally put the serve in. And with how Nuno was
Yeah.
playing on the previous 5 or 6 points, it's very likely he would have won it just by putting in a few shots. But overall, he was really outplayed quite heavily. I mean, this match, and it is shocking. It is absolutely shocking how Nuno Borges just was able to power through that slice and just give Dimitrov nothing. I guess these cards, on the contrary to like what we might think of after Iga Swiatek matches, they actually do take spin quite okay, or maybe it's the balls who are pretty heavy. And yeah, Dimitrov just couldn't handle what was going into his backhand side, which is definitely quite surprising, as recently that's one of his main strengths. And in general,
Right.
that's one of his main strengths.
Yeah. I mean, what can you tell us about Nuno Borges? Because, I mean, up until this match, I had never seen the man play. But I'm sure you have, since you've seen everybody play.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed him. I've seen him play a lot of times. Yes, absolutely. He was, of course, a college player a couple of years ago for Mississippi State. Wonderful
Oh,
career there.
cool.
And after he wrapped it up, basically had a pretty steady rise, I would say. Usually peaking in Portugal, very good on clay. Although that was also like changing from sort of at various points of his career. I know when he was in college, he at some point definitely considered hard courts to be his best surface, then sort of switching to clay. And then since he got to the ATP level, he's, by the way, from Maya, where that challenger is held in December, or like almost almost beginning of December, end of November on indoor clay. So winning that last year, of course, was pretty big for him as well, given that it's in his hometown. But what I'm trying to say is that since getting to the ATP Tour level, he has kind of struggled. Like he got to the second round, or like the round of 16 at ATP Tour events 9 times, never making it to the quarters, which was pretty shocking, given that even like when he was just breaking through and just having a random Estoril ATP 250 appearance, he beat Thompson, then lost a great match with Cilic, and he's better than this. However, I cannot really say that, well, on the main tour, he hasn't been exposed a touch. Like, he's really had some rough losses. Most of these round of 16 defeats, I mean, they were pretty heavy. Even this year already, I mean, he wins 2 games against Arthur Fils in Auckland, for example. So he's really had some nightmares at that level, and it was a bit surprising to me. I wasn't expecting him to be a top 20 contender or something, but definitely the pace, the trajectory that he had after college was pretty insane, and I just thought he was going to be more of a main tour threat. He still hasn't made a quarterfinal at tour level, I suppose, but of course a Grand Slam fourth round is like better. And
Yeah.
also beating 2 seeds along the way, beating them like that as well. I mean, before today, he was along with Sinner the only player who hasn't dropped a set so far, and honestly, it was pretty close for him not to drop one either here. Like he wins the first set tiebreak, and who knows what's going to happen in the next 2. But yeah, it's definitely quite insane. I do wonder whether he's going to capitalize on this. I think certainly he's like a pretty basic-ish attacking ball striker, but today I think was a wonderful display of his game, and just how much he actually has on the ball and how much spin he's able to produce on that forehand. Definitely a versatile player as well right now. So I think that this is, of course, going to give him a lot of confidence. And it's going to be just the next question after the Australian Open is just going to be whether he actually starts stepping up consistently on that tour level.
Right.
Because last year, his win-loss record was horrific. Like it was like, I don't remember, 5-12 or whatever, something like that. He was only maintaining himself really in the top 100 on challenger points last year. So obviously the big goal this year will be to avoid that, to just be able to survive purely of what he can play at the highest level.
Right. And, now he's in the top 50 based off of these results.
Yeah.
It seems the second only Portuguese player to do it, and, another great Grand Slam story. So hopefully he can keep it up all season. Back to the other matches that happened yesterday, today. What is time when things are happening in Australia? The blockbuster match that I stayed up for, that I mean, luckily it wasn't a night match, it was a daytime match, but it didn't turn out to be much. Carlos Alcaraz against JC Zhang. How do you say his last name?
Yuncheng Shang. I mean,
Shang.
Yuncheng Shang. Yeah.
And
I mean, of course, we don't pronounce it the best that we possibly could, but I think with a lot of these Chinese names, we just sort of go for the acceptable pronunciation, like with Qinwen Zheng or whatever. We're not going to be saying it the best.
We try our best.
Can. But yeah, we just go for the acceptable pronunciation. So if anyone knows Chinese or is Chinese in the chat, sorry, but I think yeah, that's what the mainstream media sort of has been going for as well. Just say it in a way that's acceptable, which I guess in this case is Yuncheng Shang. And if you want to avoid the name, it's also Jerry Shang. So Jerry is fine as well.
Yeah.
Chinese names generally have their representatives, like, I guess, I don't know how to call it. Like Chinese names have their versions in English most of the time. Yeah. And and Jerry is for Yuncheng. Yeah. So
Matthew's giving us a little tip. It's Shang like bong in English.
no, I've never heard anyone pronounce it like this, but it's very possible. Of course, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it's not true. I'm just saying I've never heard it pronounced like this.
But in terms of his match, he retired injured. It seems like he couldn't, he was playing so well in Hong Kong, came into the Australian Open, kept it up, but it seems like his body couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah, that's of course been the major story for Zheng Qinwen throughout the course of his career, but it's definitely it's pretty certain that he did make the major leap after the off season. Of course, semis in Hong Kong, beating some amazing players, and also staying on court like 2 consecutive rounds for 3.5 hours, withstanding that. Here, he already had a pretty tough workout for his standards, at least. I mean, 5 sets against Mackie McDonald, 4 sets against Sumit Nagal. I don't think he was troubling Carlos anyway, but certainly it wasn't the shot-making feast that we were expecting, and just a watchable classic, even if not competitive, even if not a competitive match. But yeah, after last year, of course, where Shang had mono, and then also just a lot of physical issues. Any third set would basically be already so tough for him in the Asian swing. I kind of don't know where he got his points last year. Like when I think about it, like he doesn't have much to defend, So still the opportunity is there, and it's just a question of whether he can recover, because clearly the game has improved after the off season. So I am still expecting some pretty big things from Shang this year. It's just that, or Shang, if I want to say it like Matthew is trying to teach us to.
Yeah, it was exciting to see him play in Hong Kong. I think he beat Tiafoe. That was a very crazy match. So hopefully he can keep up the form and keep his body together in order to have a great season. Just hitting on a few other matches. So Hurkacz survived Ugo and Bear. Tommy Paul did not survive Mimo Kecmanovic.
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening to the pronunciation on the ATP profile, and it's actually nothing like strong there. So I don't know. Maybe he also said it, in a way where he just sort of expects us to say it in a bit of more natural way for us. But I don't know. It happens sometimes that the players just sort of start accepting a non-perfect pronunciation. Anyway, you wanted to talk about Hurkacz and Paul, or what?
I mean, what did you think of both matchups? I mean, Hugo. I mean, for Hurkacz, this is his first 4th round now of the Australian Open, right?
No.
Is it, or is it second?
It's
no, it's
second,
second.
After last year.
It's his second. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a pretty good result for him. I think the draw has opened up as well, because that Rune 4th round was looking pretty dangerous. Menchik, of course, 2nd round, that was kind of lucky for him that Menchik wasn't able to survive this physically, because quality-wise, he definitely had what it takes to beat him. But yeah, today he was absolutely fine. He did choke the 3rd set horribly, but got it back in the tiebreak, where he was eventually 6th up even. Lost the next 4 points, but somehow he manages to get over the line. So that was a bit messy. But in general, I think the defensive scrambling was really good today. Humbert probably wasn't really able to stay as consistent as he sometimes can, but obviously it's not like his main asset. And I think to just reach that second week of a major on hard courts again, for the 2nd time, that's already pretty huge, because of course Hurkacz's performances at the slams, especially the US Open, but Australia until last year as well, were quite horrific. And he will like his chances next round. I don't know if he takes the opportunity, but it's certainly easier than what he was expecting before the event. He also has a good record against Medvedev, so it's really all there for even a semi-final run. And who knows, maybe he can actually pull it off, despite probably playing just solid stuff. I haven't been obsessed. I haven't been so amazed by Hubert Hurkacz's level so far. I don't think anyone has.
Yeah.
But that's really what he has to do, in the long run. I think to sort of establish himself as a more of a 7-8 player rather than 9-10 in the rankings, if you want to go for that. Just win, get to the second week consistently, rather than have a peak stretch like the last couple of months, like the second half of 2023, where he still loses, of course, at the US Open in the second round. But we many times we've said it, that this one is actually possible because he was sick and also he played Draper. But yeah, this is kind of what he needs to do, like win fairly routinely, let's say, because Menchik wasn't routine, but win somewhat routinely when he's not absolutely peaking, and get to these second weeks. And Paul Kecmanovic, another match point saving affair from Kecmanovic. Second round in a row, he saved 2 match points. Kind of Tommy's fault. Like, he did play a very tight tiebreak in the fourth. Didn't have anything left. I don't know if mentally or physically for the fifth one, but of course it wasn't really close. Kecmanovic also, since the Davis Cup finals, just playing a lot above his usual standard with a lot more conviction, if you may. So that's pretty nice for him. He gets a rematch with Alcaraz, which was one of the best matches of 2022.
Yeah. I think after Tommy Paul's match against Draper, I was expecting more, so I didn't even watch this match. I just thought, maybe he'd hit another level. And so I was very shocked to see the results at the end, especially the bagel in the fifth set. So unfortunately, I didn't watch that, but I will check out the highlights for that. And finally, the match I want to talk about, we have another Arthur. We have another Arthur coming out of France. And just like Sean says, I think Damien knows this Arthur very well, even though before the Australian Open, I had never heard of his name before.
I'm actually wondering if I've ever seen him live. Maybe not.
I heard he won a challenger, Damien. You didn't watch it?
I mean, live as in, in person.
In person, yeah.
In person. Marseille 2020, I actually did. He got a wild card there because he was the runner-up of the Australian Open 2020. But that was like a major event, and he didn't fare too well. Mayo was at the time maybe developing a little better. But yeah, I mean, I've had this rundown of Cazaux the past couple of days. I had this already like 5 times. So let's just say that, the runner-up of Australian Open 2020, lots of injuries coming up. In 2022, he even announced that 2022, he even announced an indefinite break from tennis because of all the issues that he was having. That indefinite break only lasted like 6 weeks. He was back in 2023 in better shape, just had a weaker second half. And it was kind of a question like whether he's actually getting exposed or not, because it was just tougher for him to stay on top of the point when he wasn't like serving well against these big players. And the serve is like amazing for his height, and it's such a big part of his game as well to just get the first strike in, go to the net. Right now, I think he's able to do that for 2 reasons. One is that he's even fitter, even faster, even better athletically. So like he's able to turn around a ton of points. And also he actually goes for it a lot more as well off the ground. So like the serve isn't as vital for him anymore, even if it's still like probably the biggest asset actually that he has in his arsenal. I would say first serve. Around 85% points, first serve points won against both Jerry and Cazaux. I actually didn't check the stat against Greek Sport today, but honestly, Greek Sport was pretty flat. Then again, it doesn't change the fact that, Cazaux just had so much momentum and was flying around the court. Yeah, again, 85%, so 14 aces as well in a very short match. And I think what's important to mention is that he's 8-0 right now this year. He was 3-6, 2-4 down in Nouméa in the second round to Patrick Gibson. He recovers from that. He plays much better as the week progresses. He also won a rematch of that Australian Open Juniors final against Aaron Mayo in the semis. And now this week, of course, just blowing everything out of proportion because he's previously he only had 1 top 50 win, and it was against Adrian Manarino on clay. So that's obviously not particularly impressive, although for where he was at the time, I remember in 2021, that was still a big headline. The same as his win against Korda that year on clay as well. I think it was like Madrid maybe. But in the long run, here he actually gets 3 of the biggest wins of his career when it comes to the rankings. 33 Jerry, 31 Greek Sport, and 8 Rune. And this is like so rare to even get to play 3 players like this in the first 3 rounds, because of course Jerry was the highest ranked unseeded player in the draw. Echeverry at 32 was a seed, the 32nd seed, whereas Jerry was the first player left out. So in a way, it couldn't really be tougher for Cazaux, unless instead of Rune, you would place like Djokovic or Alcaraz there, or Medvedev or Sinner.
Right.
Like if it was a different top 8 seed, yes, it could have been tougher. But when it comes to Grigspor and then Jere, that kind of couldn't have been any harder for him. So yeah, it's a fantastic run. I think against Hurkacz, he also has a pretty decent matchup. It should be a very serve-based match, as any Hurkacz performance is really. So yeah, I'm expecting fireworks again from these two.
Should be really exciting. I wanted to just point out, because for someone like me who had never heard of Artur before, or even, learning more about Nunez, I love what the ATP does. It's like they're so ready for all these new players once they pop up on the scene. They have videos out. They have a little article written and stuff. So if you go check out the ATP site or their social media, you'll always find something about these new
something
players.
Interesting, by the way. Do you remember that base camp competition that was there at the Next Gen Finals?
Yes.
And do you know how Artur Cazaux did in it?
Oh, how did he do in it?
Yeah, because he wasn't, of course, proper main draw.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the groups. He was an alternate, and they did it for him after all the other players were finished. So it's a different video. It can be found somewhere. I don't really know if it's like Tennis TV or whatever, but it can be found. And he beat everyone in every category, including all the fields records. And he was just like, I'm gonna keep going for Artur's records, and he did get all of them. I think at least 3 of them were based on the speed, though. So so that's maybe more explainable, or just something that we would expect. The jump was maybe a little surprising, but anyway, of course, that also kind of tells you something.
Yeah, well, there you go. So go look for that. If I can find the link to it, I'll put it in the chat. But let us move on to the WTA. And when I tweeted about this, and I'll post it, I think, soon, but the top half of the WTA and the bottom half of the ATP, that's just where all the popcorn has been happening. That's where all the fire matches have been happening. They've been so fun so far. Day 5, day 7 have just brought all the stories. And we can start with Blinkova, who was kind of the star of day 5. Was it day 5 where she beat or was that day 3?
No, not day 3. Either 5 or 4. I mean, I cannot possibly tell you.
I know. It's like, what is time? But her huge tiebreak against Rybakina, and it's like,
well, it must be day 5, because we are talking about day 7, so it must be day 5.
So it was definitely day 5. And that was the story of day 5. And here we go. First tiebreak back, day 7, she loses it 7-1 to Jasmine Paolini, and loses.
That's
and
the
then
story of
the
today, really? That's the story.
It's not the story of the day. It's not the story of the day, but it's tennis. You know what I mean? It's tennis. You can have your highest moment.
Felt pretty obvious, honestly. Yeah, it's so hard to repeat that highest moment, the emotional highest one, especially, and also the tiredness. Like this was actually a really long match against Rybakina, where there's a lot of nerves as well. So that adds up to it. So yeah, I don't think this one was particularly surprising or interesting. But yeah, I feel like, even though the contrast probably in what she said, like about the halves on the men's side, I don't think there's that big a contrast. Here on the women's, like, I think at this point in the top half, we should stop making any predictions. It's just literally sit down and watch this. Sit down and watch this. If it's going to be Anna Kalinskaya, I'm not going to be surprised in the final. If it's going to be Ossian Dodem, I'm not going to be surprised. Kalinskaya is actually a very real finalist. Dodem is probably the more, or Paolini. Oh, these are probably the two who are like the least possible, or Yastremska. But yeah, at this point, I don't think we can be surprised by anything. It's so close. The top, sort of the favorites, are very close to one another in terms of their quality. At the same time, you also have all these informed players who simply are playing above their usual capabilities right now. So I have nothing left to say really about the sort of matches going forward in the top half of the women's draw. We can, of course, talk about the ones that happened today, and we are going to. But when it comes to like going into later into the event, I have no idea who's going to make the final, who's going to make the quarters. I feel like at this point it's just a guessing game.
Yeah, I mean, it's every day, every time this top half plays, it's just like what's going to happen, even the match, the one I watched all the way through between Qinwen, as I pronounce it, and I don't know how to pronounce her opponent's
As I
name.
said, I think at this point everyone just goes for like an anglicized um, pronunciation, and we have to stick with it. Yeah.
Yeah, Wang. But yeah, that I mean, it was such just a topsy-turvy match, and just the look, and I don't know if Qinwen was paying attention to the draw or she was seeing what was happening, but just the look of relief on her face when she won that match, you had to assume that she sees opportunity in this top half.
Yeah, I mean, this is her chance. I think in the past she's had moments when she didn't capitalize on things like this. Definitely, the U.S. Open was the start when it's switched. This is when she actually has an easy draw. She has issues along the way. There was that match with Lucia Bronzetti, which she could have easily lost. But she gets to the quarters. Of course, she gets demolished by Sabalenka. But the main thing was just getting to that quarterfinal. And right now, this is probably a pretty similar topic. I mean, I don't think she needs to make the final, but she will be disappointed if she doesn't make the final four at least. Losing to Svitolina, Azarenka, Noskova, I think that would be perfectly fine for her. Given who is in her forefront the quarter, she will kind of feel like she needs to make that. I don't know if she will, of course. This is actually a lot tougher than it seems on paper. Dodon just plays any match really that she wants on her own terms. She just blasts the ball and sees what's going to happen. Big serve as well. I think Qinwen has struggled to players in the past who like have a similar type of idea for playing this sport. And then Kalinskaya in the quarters especially, I think, could be insanely tough given what sort of form she is in right now. So yeah, it's not a given, but she is the player who will feel like, okay, this is my opportunity. Whereas the rest, well, they will also feel like this is their one and only maybe opportunity. Whereas Qinwen will probably just feel like, okay, I'm the favorite. I kind of have to do it. I don't know if today's match kind of shows you that that she is already struggling with it. Probably not. I think it was pretty good from from start to finish from both. Lots of fun moments on social media as well, right? With Nali showing up
Yeah.
sort of unexpectedly to talk to her, and apparently being a bit of an idol. Apparently Zheng loves Nali but doesn't know who Barbora Krejcikova is. That's kind of fair. I mean, I think that works. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, but it's a pretty hilarious video. Okay, good.
Yeah, so I mean, again, going through this top half, Alina Svitolina, I think, has quietly just had an excellent run so far. She just goes through her matches, she wins them, she's like, next. Who's next? Straight sets again for Svitolina.
Yeah, absolutely no fuss so far. I think we were also expecting her to be pretty good. I mean, right now she's probably playing, in a way, she's playing the best tennis of her career. I mean, definitely she's more complete than she was. I don't know if Noskova will also fall into the same trap of like Blinkova and her next match, because it wasn't as physical against Swiatek. And also, like, she's actually the much better player generally, like the much stronger prospect than Blinkova. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like it. But of course, Svitolina is among these three or four players who are the most likely to pick up the pieces. One, again, can argue that she will never have a better shot at making the final at a Grand Slam, because I think twice that she played in the semis, she once lost to Serena, and what was the other loss? I cannot remember at the moment, but I think it was also like, yeah, Halep maybe? Halep, I think, sounds pretty right, I believe. I think it was Halep and Serena. Correct me someone if I'm wrong, but this also is a phenomenal opportunity for her. And of course, after returning from her pregnancy last year, she actually is showing a layer to her game that we never really saw before. And it seems like, especially players who are like sort of like her, maybe more so in the past, but are sort of like her defensively oriented, she is even better now against them than she was in the past. I think if she like landed Coco in the final, she would have a real shot at it. There are some players in this top half of the draw who, if they make the final, they will probably crumble. But like Svitolina against Goff, that's a pretty decent matchup for her. I know she just lost to her in Auckland, but that was like mostly physicality, and she did take the first set.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for sure to see if Svitolina can keep this going. It's not going to be easy. It's Noskova next, then maybe Azarenka or Yastremska. But basically, any round from here just carries. Even if the star quality of the names isn't as high, it's going to have some free players who are freaking in form, and it's not going to be a like a rollover or a draw to the final for her for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Going on to Azarenka and Noskova, I think, everyone was sort of waiting for the Ostapenko Swiatek matchup, just looking far into the future. And Azarenka and Noskova were like, nope, hold up, wait a minute. We have something to say about that. How surprising was it for you for Swiatek being out in the third round? I mean, for me, it seems like this draw was one of her toughest in a while in terms of the names. She starts with Kenin and then Danielle Collins. Like, they weren't sort of like easy, bagel matches that she's having here. And do you think sort of the pressure of handling those two first matches kind of hit her, or do you think her form just wasn't that good? Because she played great at the United Cup. So I thought her form coming into the Australian Open was pretty high.
Yeah, I liked what she said in the presser afterwards, like about playing, not being able to play with her intuition as much here, just because from the get go she wasn't feeling that comfortable on the courts. So she sort of had to think more about parts of her game that she usually is just able to, just play along, and basically this comes natural, and that seems like a very reasonable explanation to me. There are like two ways to look at it. I think both. One is that well, she did get a horrific draw. Like, this is as nightmarish as it can really get, and it would go on into the next rounds as well. Maybe the quarters not now because Ostapenko is out, but like if she was also gonna play Svitolina Ostapenko, that's as tough as you can really have it, especially if Rybakina and Sabalenka in the final. So like the projected draw was the toughest really she could get. Collins also getting there over Kerber in the second round, Noskova over Buskova. Some matches that maybe could have gone different way. So either the one thing is just to look at this like, okay, so she had a tough draw, and also all the opponents were peaking against her, but also she
Yeah.
kind of invited these peaks. That's the other sort of train of thought, way of thought here. And I think probably as usual, truth is somewhere in the middle. Personally, I would lean more towards her inviting that a touch, just because, well, she has never really felt that comfortable in Melbourne. Like, it's legit possible that Wimbledon will be a better slam for her soon. And I think every one of these big hitters, Kenin, Collins, Noskova, they did play like some of their best matches of late against her, because they saw a very clear target. They saw someone who was fragile. They saw someone who was vulnerable, who could have been a big win. Where you have like a very easy way of attacking her, especially through the second serve return. I don't feel the forehand was that rushed defensively in this event, so probably more so through that. And the comeback against Collins as well from 1-4, I think it covered up a lot of issues. Like, people were just talking about that, but they weren't talking about how Iga until 1-4 in the third was just rushing, and basically anytime she had Daniel on the back foot, she was trying to end the point with one shot for absolutely no reason, which is something she can do against other powerful players. She's done that in the past. Big part of her rise, sort of again last year in Beijing at the WTA finals, was avoiding that and just playing smarter. I don't know if this was possible here because, of course, the courts also weren't as pleasant for her as in Beijing or at the WTA finals. But this is also more or less in line with what she said after the match, in that she was sort of like, I couldn't really play the way I was able to recently, with like that tactical awareness, because I had to focus on other things as well, focus on some basics that I usually don't really get to even think about during the match. So I think the
Right.
comeback against Collins covered up a lot of issues, and these issues again sort of came up. I think she also was a little less intense than usual. Is it the knee issue that she had, like the brace, the magnetic brace that she had on it? I don't know. At the United Cup, she had it too, and she was fine. So
She was fine.
perhaps
Yeah.
this is a bit of a talking point, but probably not the thing we should be focusing on. However, I think she was really low on intensity in the second and third set. Probably only really had this one big game when she broke back in the third at 1-2. Like, that was the moment when she really pushed herself to something. But of course, the last game also a bit of an opportunity. She misses a couple of returns, which she was kind of missing them the whole match, but she couldn't really produce that more sustained, more controlled aggression when it mattered. And also the 3-all game, of course, when the first serve was just non-existent, and she was struggling to keep the balls in play, like literally couldn't play more than 2 shots in a rally. So it wasn't a great display from her for sure. Actually, maybe one of her weaker performances at a slam in a while. She still got to the third round, which I think she has a pretty huge streak right now of getting there. But yeah, this was pretty rough. I don't think I was expecting really her to maybe claim the title, because I thought that some of the bigger matchups, like against Ostapenko or Sabalenka on these courts, are going to be rough for her. Rybakina as well, if she got there. But still, you sort of just expect a regular Świątek showing, which is like quarter semi,
Right.
and she wasn't able to do that. And she was basically in trouble every round, which I guess, again, as I said, is just a sort of a balance between the opposition making it really tough, and also just her inviting that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Victoria Azarenka, she's the only Grand Slam winner in the top half of the draw now. Also someone who I wasn't really, she wasn't on my radar this tournament. She was there in the background winning matches. I expected Ostapenko to come out of this, who also has been doing well in the pre-tournaments before the Oz Open, but I mean, she does not have a great head-to-head against Azarenka.
Ostapenko, yeah. I mean, this is now 4-0. And I think with time, sort of over time, even the matchup has gotten a bit tougher for Jelena, just because Azarenka is seemingly a bit of a serve bot now. Like the ace rate, the ace potential has gotten a lot higher. I checked the stats, and like when she was in her prime, like 2012, 2013, she was hitting a lot fewer aces, I guess, than last year, than 2016 as well. 2016 was the only real comparable patch. Of course, serve like aces aren't the only statistic that we can have for measuring performance on serve. It is kind of flawed. It is kind of flawed as well. Like if you look at just first serve percentage, because it also like how you play after your serve is also going to impact that. So we don't really have a perfect stat for it. But just also on the eye test, yeah, I mean, she was really getting a lot of quality first serves in against Ostapenko. And if you remember her prime, like 2012, 13, that was usually the issue. Like she always had an elite return game, but she wasn't quite up there with like the biggest servers like Serena or whatever. Right now, it seems like she has improved that. I think this is working really well in terms of covering up that movement decline that is definitely there. Like she has lost half a step. She's not as she's not able to produce as much defensively, but she's able to make it work. Did Ostapenko have a bit of a horror show in the first? Yes. Should she have won at least one more game from 5-2? Yes. But it still seems like over the years, this matchup has only gotten tougher for Ostapenko. I think after the Brisbane match, I thought it was going to be like a 50-50, because that one really was that. I mean, they just really attack each other's second serves, and that's kind of it. Like whoever lands more is probably going to win. Ostapenko obviously brings a lot more fire off the ground as well, but can be less reliable. But yeah, Azarenka again served really well, and I think in both Brisbane and here, this was what led her to the win. And now she's playing Yastremska. It's a different matchup, of course, but also against a big hitter. Maybe if she serves like this again, I don't know if I actually buy her as a finalist potentially, just because I think she's going to play someone, maybe like Svitolina, where the movement deficiencies and the serve isn't going to be less as important, and it's like a more baseline oriented matchup, less big hitting. I think maybe she's not going to hold up that well in that. But yeah, I think Ostapenko Azarenka was a bit of a 50-50, and Azarenka just once again showed that she kind of enjoys herself in this matchup. Although when I saw some tweets saying that this is so comfortable for Azarenka, I was like, nah, I mean, you're playing Ostapenko. It's never comfortable. You can be leading 6-love for love, and it's not comfortable. You're not going to feel good, because she is dictating. She is just blasting the ball all the time. And as Kirit says, that's why she cannot put 7 matches together as well. She did just once. Although recently Ostapenko has been a lot more reliable than in the past.
Yeah, and a lot more consistent. So we'll see what the rest of the season holds for her. But you brought up, Azarenka's next match. So let's look at what we have coming up for the fourth round. So a little bit of a preview. What are you looking forward to in these fourth round matches on the WTA side?
Kind of everything in the top half. As I said, this is just like grab your popcorn, watch it. I have no clue who's gonna win either match. Probably the strongest favorite here is either Zheng or Svitolina. But again, Noskova, I agree with who was that? Oh, Kirit, who said in the chat that Svitolina is a completely different matchup. But I think Noskova is talented enough that it doesn't have to matter. Like she really is for me a player who's like basically has all the tools already, and once she starts showing that in every single match, once she starts being consistent on a weekly basis, she could have a big rise. So I think maybe if she again is able to perform at a very high standard, it doesn't have to be easy. Kalinskaya, I want to see if she plays like this again, because today against Stevens she was just marvelous. She loses the first set, and after that just, I don't know, starts going even bigger, makes 0 errors for the next 2 sets. I don't know if the stat guys are always right, but like I think she made like 6 or 5 unforced errors in the last 2 sets, and that's while dictating play. That's while going after the ball. I mean, the match point was fabulous as well. I was so impressed with that performance in general. Kalinskaya over the past 2 or 3 months. Of course, she's like 16-3, I think, in her last 19 matches. Huge results at the WTA 125 level, and also this year she only lost to Azarenka and Kasatkina so far. I think always she's been a very underrated ball striker, so I love seeing this run. And I'm sorry, Jasmine Paolini, I would like to see her in the quarters. I think she's capable of more in this event. And all the other matches look pretty interesting as well. Yeah, I mean, Yastremska or Dodem, they might be the underdogs, but they are certainly capable of just taking the racket away from the opponent when playing well. So this is a bit of a half for me, where like you just sit back, enjoy, relax,
relax.
Yeah, who the hell knows?
We also have the matches on the bottom half, where I mean, I'm just gonna be in front of my TV for Sabalenka and Anisimova. There we go. I said it. But that's going to be my.
Are you also going to be in front of your TV for Goff against Frank?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be in front of my TV for that one. I do not know. We will see. If it gets interesting, then sure.
Yeah.
But how does Goff not make it at least to the semis?
Yeah, you know? Kostyuk or Timofeyeva might have a bit of a shot, but her draw has definitely opened up. The tough matchups that we thought were going to happen for Goff along the way, so Fernandez, Garcia, they all went out. And basically every other player who is like maybe more established than Kostyuk, Timofeyeva, or Frank has gone out. Kostyuk is definitely the one who's had like the most experience at these stages, and of course is always a player who's just like waiting for a breakthrough. Many third rounds and fourth round, I think this is only his second, but in the third round she was actually a lot of times already, including the Australian Open in 2018 when she was just 15, and of course that was a major story back then. So I think Kostyuk maybe is the biggest threat, but yeah, Goff not making the semis right now is looking unlikely. Sabalenka, a little tougher. Anisimova, the 4-1 head-to-head, I don't know if she's quite capable of putting this together in like this stage of her season, the moment when she is just basically coming back from, well, injury issues, but also mental things. And I don't know if she's quite fully there to like play 4 amazing matches in a row, including against Sabalenka. But she did used to have a pretty good matchup with her, so why not? And Andreeva as well, despite getting demolished by Sabalenka last time they played. I mean, she's just such an improving player that maybe she can pull it off anyway. So I think Sabalenka is definitely under more threat going into the semis than Goff.
And on the men's side, it's looking pretty exciting.
Which section are you referring to? Top half or bottom half? Because top half doesn't excite me whatsoever tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's just all high seeds.
It's all in the bottom half.
Yeah, it's no novelty. It's all high seeds. You know, the only top 16 seed not to make it is Shelton, but we get Manarino instead of that, which is actually kind of worse because Manarino is going to be so tired after all these matches. He also got the day session against Novak, which I think ends his chances just definitively. Even like back in the day, this was never really a tough matchup for Novak. and I think he's going to just figure things out very smoothly again. Dimitrov Rublev is probably the standout today. To tomorrow, whatever the time of the day is for you. But yeah, it is tomorrow for me as well. So I don't know why I said today. But tomorrow, Dimitrov Rublev is probably the standout, as that actually looks close. That actually looks like a match that could deliver the fireworks. Sinner against Khachanov, I guess someone could be excited about it. But I think Khachanov has had such a horrible record against the top 10 over the years. And it's for a reason. Like, he just kind of plays this very solid base level, very high floor. But when he has to step it up, when he has to like play with maybe a lot more balls, he never really does it. At least not anymore, not since winning Paris in 2018. And I think Sinner, has just been so good that probably he takes care of that. Maybe it's even tougher for him than the quarter. And Tsitsipas Fritz, I am bored by. I instantly don't want to watch it. Like, there's no novelty for me in this matchup. I know they've only played 4 times. But I just don't feel like watching either of them. No. I also think it's irrelevant for the rest of the event, because one of them is going to have to play Djokovic in the quarters.
This is true.
But, we can sort of look ahead. And if we get Djokovic Sinner in the semis, yes, that I will be excited by. But the bottom half looks a lot more fresh to me. And that's what I am looking for, like in second weeks of slams. I want to see something fresh.
Right. Well, in terms of the order of play today, tomorrow, depending on when you are in the world, this is Australian time. So Rod Laver Arena, we're starting with Goff, and then the Djokovic match during the day. It's the first time he's played during the day since, I think they said 2021.
Yeah, 2022 he didn't play the event, so it's only 2023 really when he didn't have a day match. I think that it shouldn't have been this round. Like the fact that Manarino played until late in the day kind of feels like they're ending his chances even more than they were already, because he was already over. But I mean, it kind of feels like they're screwing him up even more. Maybe Djokovic could have played Margaret Court instead of Sinner Khachanov in the night session, but I mean, whatever. That probably doesn't matter for this matchup anyway. If you could take one shot from a pro player, which would it be? That's an interesting question from Sean. I have to think about it. Like, are we thinking of me being the most effective tennis player that I can be, or are we thinking about me just wanting a shot because it's so good, or like it's so beautiful, for example? Because if we're like thinking about most effective, I would probably take the serve of Isner or Karlovic, right? But it's not a fun answer. It's the boring answer. It's like the tired and now I option, and now I have to think about the wired option.
For me, I don't like my backhand, don't like really using the backhand. I always run around the ball to hit a forehand. So I'll just take someone's good forehand and just keep running around the ball, because why improve your weaknesses, really? I've never really thought about that, Sean, but I'll think about it now.
Yeah, like probably also the most effective option for me would be to take like a Djokovic backhand, just because mine is pretty awful. It's a one-hander, and like against pace, it's rough.
Oh, Damien, we should play. We should just play forehand. Well, we just won't hit our backhands ever.
No, I mean I like hitting my backhand. When it works, I feel great. I actually started developing like a pretty sensible down the line winner, so it's cool. When I hit it, I'm like, oh Jesus! Finally, I have this shot in my arsenal. But because, as you said, like, why improve our weaknesses? I would just take a one-hander from someone and just have a better version of that shot. Be more flashy with it. Who am I kidding? I mean, I'm gonna take Federer's one-hander.
Of course, yes. I was waiting for you to say it. I'm like, how can you not say you're gonna take Federer's one?
Yeah, I was sort of just trying to go for something different, But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's very similar to mine in terms of how I try to use the shot. Of course, mine is horrific, and mine is also way less consistent. My slice is, well, good for my level, but not for the actual pros. But yeah, I would still take that. And of course, some other good answers. Yeah, as Kirit says, Fernando Gonzalez's forehand, Juan Martín del Potro's forehand, Federer Nadal forehand. Like these are also very much doable. I didn't want to go for a forehand though, because I feel like that shot in my game is not like limited offensively. So I'm fine with my forehand. I would rather exchange my backhand for sure, or the serve especially maybe.
So back to the schedule. I mean, I'm going to spend my day on Margaret Court. I'm going to watch that Sabalenka match and then, follow up with Sinner. I think that's where all the excitement will be. But I can't also help look that Barbora Krejcikova Andreeva match. That's going to be fun, I think. Maybe.
Yeah,
Damien,
let's
will you
see.
watch that with
It
me?
depends on Krejcikova. It depends on Krejcikova, I think, if she's able to make it a match. Because the last 2 times they played, I know it was a retirement at Wimbledon, but in Beijing it was pretty awful. And like Krejcikova has so much variety and like often confuses players with it. It seems like Andreeva is able to respond to all that. Then again, when Diane Parry was just slicing her to death 2 days ago, or actually yesterday, when Diane Parry was just slicing Andreeva to death, she actually had issues. Maybe this is
Yeah.
possible. I think if there is that possibility that it's like Beijing last year, and then it's not too exciting. But in general, yeah, I do want to see that one. So I guess, but I agree with you that the Margaret Court Arena is probably the place to be. Of course, there's no doubles matches here, so I don't know which doubles are along with it. But it seems just from the singles schedule that indeed, if someone has a ticket for Margaret Court, they might enjoy it even more than Rod Laver Arena tomorrow. Although, then again, you have Dimitrov Rublev as well on Rod Laver, so I guess it's a bit of a split between the two.
Yeah, that could be fun. So another fun day of tennis tomorrow. I think the Australian Open really has delivered so far. Definitely, stick with us. I'm not sure exactly what matches we're going to be streaming and commenting on today, but just subscribe. Please like this video, stick with us, and hopefully we'll have a schedule soon, and you'll know what to watch with us. I just woke up and the coffee is not working yet, Damien. So
I have no clue what we're going to be doing, but certainly there's going to be something tomorrow. Yeah. I would assume that Dimitrov Rublev is going to be there because we've been doing that pretty much all week, right? That the 9 a.m. match is probably going to be covered. But you guys know there's going to be something at least. And of course, keep subscribing as well as we are on that quest for 6K. Until the end of Australian Open.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're gonna make it with your help. We're gonna make it. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. If you all subscribe, then we are definitely going to do it. 5.5K, 5.5K is definitely doable. So keep going, and we are definitely gonna have some content for you tomorrow as well.
Okay, bye everyone.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.